Have you ever asked yourself the question, why was the early edge ever invented? Just passing 2 years on the air, hasn't missed one single day in 2 years. No other brand does that. We are your daily sports betting brand of record. We are powered, as always, by the almighty SportsLine. These are the days the show was invented. The World Cup, France and Argentina. We just cashed 3 tickets. Mbappe to score. Messi to score, both teams to score. Thank you, Buckets. And now we're getting 30 extra minutes while we talk about American football. 6 1 o'clock games, 4 o'clock games, and the best NFL minds that there is anywhere. Let's bring in the stars of the show because we got a lot to get to, a lot to break down. You saw these same faces on our props extravaganza on Friday. Hopefully you got those plays in. First and foremost, live from parts unknown. Prop stars, are you ready today?
Coach, I was born ready. Cousin Sia, great to see you. I absolutely love this slate of games. I am so excited for some of these matchups, starting with my Philadelphia Eagles. Let's go. Let's have a big game day.
Oh, I love that. That's going to be the very first game we talk about, but not before I introduce the most handsome man in all of the early edge universe, and also the man on the hottest streak as well. See, how's your last 2 weeks gone, sir?
It's gone really, really well. Happy to be on the show. I think so. I lost the Matt Ryan pass completions prop yesterday. Anytime the defense scores 2 touchdowns in the first half, you're going to lose a passing prop if you have that quarterback. Just FYI. So that brings my total on official plays to 14-3 over the last 2 weeks. I do want to point out time was sort of the essence yesterday with the weather in that Bills game. So I did tweet out the Gabe Davis total receiving yards over, which I, by the way, mentioned on the prop show. I mentioned specifically that I was waiting on the weather before I pulled the trigger there. I wasn't able to get it in on the app, on the SportsLine app, which I should have full access to this week, but I did tweet it out. That actually hit. So it's an unofficial play, but I wanted to point that out. If you follow me, sometimes because of time, I might put something on Twitter versus on one of these shows.
Yeah, but if people listen to me and do what I tell them to do and follow all of you guys and gals on Twitter, they would have gotten that play. So in my world, see it, that's an official win because they need to follow you. Let's go. Let's go. The chat is popping. We're popping. And France and Argentina are popping. So, gentlemen, let's jump into the first game of the day. And we know Alex is fired up for this one because his Eagles continue to be the number 1 seed in the NFC, laying 8.5 in Chicago, total 48.5. I've got 2 questions I know I'm going to ask you about. You know where I'm going with 2 of them. But here's where we stand as a brand. The Maestro has a parlay. Bills still alive with the Eagles and the Bengals. Hopefully he played the Bills yesterday. Then Jalen Hurts over 1.5 touchdown passes and Eagles team total over 28.5. I got it at 28 just a couple of minutes ago. Then RJ has the Eagles minus 2.5 and the Cardinals plus 7.5 in a teaser. But now to my 2 experts right here. Prop stars, we're going to start with you because when the Eagles played the Titans, this particular player went absolutely bananas. And you think today he could do it again. Who am I talking about?
Yeah, talking about A.J. Brown, Coach. I love him over 67.5 receiving yards. If you follow me on Twitter, have access to my article or the site or watch, obviously, the Friday prop show. I've given this play out everywhere. So I absolutely love this look. Listen, Brown, he's averaging 78 receiving yards per game this season. He has been every bit as good as advertised since joining the Eagles. 2.43 yards per route run to go along with 10.6 yards per target. Both of those are elite. 27% target share, 39% air yard share. Now he gets to face a Bears defense that is 32nd dead last in EPA allowed per drop back. The Bears also really struggle generating pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Why is that important? Because Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, they have struggled only in rare situations this season when opposing teams have had a pass rush. When teams aren't able to get pressure, that allows A.J. Brown to get open. It takes time for those routes to develop deep down the field. I talk about this all the time. The engine of the Eagles offense is downfield attacking. That is their first and foremost priority. That's what they're going to look to try and do, and I really think they'll be able to exploit a soft Bears defense. So give me A.J. Brown over 67.5 receiving yards. I'd play this one up to 71.5. Mentioned this on Friday. I also really like his alt totals over 100, over 125 as well for a little sprinkle.
A little bit of sprinkle to start things off. By the way, I got this at 70.5 just 2 minutes ago, so it's still in that area. Now, see my man DM Punk says, what kind of top secret clearance does a handsome lawyer need to access the internal workings of the CBS mainframe? Let the man prop for his opportunities. I agree, DM. We'll get there. We've got a lot of things with Sia that we need to get done, but this is the first one. But Sia, you like somebody on the other side because the Eagles, as good as they have been scored on at times a lot, which means what?
Yeah, and I do want to say, if you're playing DFS, if you think the Bears can hang with this team at all, and when I say hang with, I mean keep it within the point spread, which is around 8.5 now. But if you think they can hang within 10 this entire game, this is a great game to stack with Jalen Hurts, with either AJ Brown or Devontae Smith or both. So just something to keep in mind there. I like Cole Kmet over 3.5 receptions. Full disclosure here, this is one of the rare situations where it was minus 120 on Friday when we did our prop show. It's now plus 100. So clearly some money coming in on the under there. That's okay. If you didn't get it Friday, you're getting a better opportunity here. The line is still 3.5 receptions. This really comes down to a process of elimination, like I explained on Friday. There are just no receivers. Without Darnell Mooney, without Chase Claypool, you have Equanimeous St. Brown, you have N'Keal Harry, Dante Pettis if he's healthy. And then that's pretty much it outside of Cole Kmet. I do think Cole Kmet's going to be a safety valve. The Eagles are a tough matchup no matter how you slice it, whether it's the receiver or the tight end position. But I do think, particularly in a negative game script, Cole Kmet will be a safety valve, perhaps in some soft coverage in the third and fourth quarter. So even if he's not getting this by halftime in terms of being on pace, I do expect him to get some dump offs in the third and fourth quarter. He caught 6 of 7 balls last week, indicative of the fact that he is kind of a safety valve, a primary target for Justin Fields. I expect the same this week.
I got this at 3 at minus 140 just 5 minutes before showtime. I'll take the extra juice to bring it down to 3. Would you do that?
100%. That's such a big difference. And the minus 140, I normally don't like that, but here I would do that 100%.
I said the same exact thing. All right, Alex, let me come back to you because the 2 questions I'm talking about. There are 4 quarterbacks that I said about 10 weeks ago I was going to blindly bet their rushing prop every single week. 2 of those quarterbacks are playing against each other here today. Here's the numbers. And the chat is also asking about these. Jalen Hurts is at 46.5, pretty juicy, around minus 150 right now, and 70.5 for Justin Fields at minus 103. Your thoughts on either one, please?
Both fairly large number for both of these quarterbacks. However, obviously more than capable of eclipsing both these lines. I would have a little more confidence in Justin Fields just because of the matchup, because as Sia mentioned, just the lack of options for the Bears in the passing game. I really think in order to stay competitive in this game, he's going to have to rely heavily on his legs. As far as Hurts rushing total is concerned, a little bit different scenario. Just the Eagles have so many options, so many different ways they can beat you. I just don't know how much he's going to look to lean on his legs. Prefer Fields. I think both numbers are pretty spot on, though.
All right, let's talk about the arms and see. Let me come right back to you because Hurts 225.5 minus 116, not bad there. And Fields is very low, 157.5 minus 115.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Fields number kind of tells you what the game plan is for the Bears, and it's for Justin Fields to run a lot, perhaps try to slow the game down with guys like David Montgomery. I kind of lean towards the Justin Fields over because I do think that receiving core, as average as they are right now, I think. Especially in a negative game script, some of these guys could get loose over the 4 quarters. I don't think I would be willing to bet it. I do kind of like the Jalen Hurts over. Again, I really, because of DFS, I really want the Bears to be competitive here. And I do think, listen, we know what we get from the Eagles no matter what. We get at least 2 quarters where it's full throttle. Mm-hmm. And against this back end with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and whoever else is going to catch balls for them, I do think Jalen Hurts can put up some numbers. So I am not going to bet either of these overs, but I lean to both overs.
Alex, go.
Yeah, real quick, wanted to point out Dallas Goedert was activated from injured reserve this week. However, he's going to be inactive. He's going to be returning to the lineup next week. Since Dallas Goedert has landed on injured reserve, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith have finished either 1 and 2 in targets for the Eagles. So without Goedert on the field, they have an extremely concentrated target distribution, and they're all funneling it directly to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which makes things very easy for us to project, props and where they're going.
All right, real quick, though, Sanders, I hear all the passing stuff, and we watched it last week, 48 points against the Giants. But Sanders, when they get that lead, that's when he's been getting his yardage, 69.5. Alex, for Sanders, quickly.
Don't mind it. It's a bit bloated because of the spike game last week. Obviously, a great matchup against Chicago, so don't mind it. I just tend to shy away when numbers get kind of kicked up like that.
All right, very, very good. And that's, if you can believe, that's just the first game. That's just the first game. That's how many good matchups, even if it's not a good team today, guys, there are good matchups for props and best bets and spreads. This is a really, really good week. So let's move to game number 2. After all that being said, this might not be the game I was talking about. Falcons, although Alex is very happy today because he loves himself a little Desmond Ridder, the rookie, getting his first start for the Atlanta Falcons today, and he's shaking his head. He knows I'm right. Saints -4, total 43.5. RJ is on the over in this game. The Saints, yes, the last few weeks they haven't scored a lot of points, but they've been playing against really good defenses. This is not that. So we do have a best bet in this game, and it's a player for the Saints that has really started to come into his own and starting to realize, even though he's a little bit undersized, he's legit. See, who am I talking about?
Yeah, it's Chris Olave, the rookie from Ohio State. Olave, like you said, Coach, Olave and the Saints offense, they've had some brutal matchups as of late. Their last 5 games against the Bucs, the Niners, the Rams, the Steelers, and the Ravens. That's just not even fair, in my opinion. But the point is, in 4 or 5 of those matchups, Chris Olave has actually exceeded 59.5 receiving yards. So even with those bad matchups, he has exceeded this number, 59.5. And for the record, this line hasn't moved from Friday. It did start out at the low 50s. It got up to 59.5, and it stabilized there. So you can still get this number. He's the leader in air yards. He's going to be the leader in targets. He gets a very soft defense, way softer than the last 5-6 weeks that they've played. So I really like this play for Chris Olave. I think Kamara is going to have a nice little game, but I think Chris Olave is going to have a somewhat of a breakout game as well.
Okay, I like that a lot, 59.5, and you can still get that number in a lot of different places. But Alex, let me come to you because I just mentioned you love Desmond Ridder, and sometimes when a rookie gets his first start, sportsbooks are very hesitant to put out any numbers because we just don't know what to expect. What do you expect?
Yeah, I expect Desmond Ridder to be protected. When we've watched Marcus Mariota play quarterback, it was frustrating at times. The Falcons run the football more than any team in the NFL. Doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative game script with this offense. They are going to run the football. So I anticipate they're going to protect Ridder. However, I've just loved Desmond Ridder throughout his college career, just watching him in the preseason, thought to be somewhat of a project, but really, really showed a great command of the offense. Very fluid. He can run, he can pass. So I think we're going to see some really impressive splash plays from Ridder. Obviously, I wish they'd kind of take the reels off and allow him to throw downfield. I don't know how much of that we're going to see, but we do see his rushing prop at 22.5 yards. His passing line is 167.5 yards. I think both those numbers are certainly in play, attainable. If you get his combined rushing and passing, I believe it's 195 or 199. I like both those numbers as well.
All right, very good. I'm anxious to see what he can do. But see, I'm coming back to you because there are some names that people are asking about in the chat that could have big days against this Falcons defense. And, of course, the stud out of the backfield, Kamara, however you want to say his name. I always butcher it. But his receiving prop is 34.5. Do you like that number? Do you think he'll be big out of the backfield?
Yeah, I think he could be big out of the backfield, but I don't know that I'd bet that number. You know, listen, the Saints are coming off a bye. They should be focused on Alvin Kamara, especially with Mark Ingram injured in this game. But I don't think we have a really good sample size of the Saints leaning on Kamara in the passing game. We see it here. We see it there. Can he surpass this on 2 catches? Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I just don't feel comfortable. I actually looked at the beginning of the week. I looked at Kamara's rushing and receiving line. It was potentially going to be an official play, but it was 92.5, which I'm guessing it's still around the 92.5 mark. It's just a little bit too high for me. So the receiving yards, I'd just stay away from personally. The rushing and receiving, I'd probably stay away from too. I think Kamara could have a great game. He's very popular in DFS. I'm not betting those props.
All right, very, very good. Now, little added bonus for you are M squared in the chat, AB in the chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in there. They will answer as we go in real time as we count down to all the games coming up top of the hour at 1 o'clock Eastern time. All right, moving on to another game that as a brand we're not heavily invested in, but I want takes from everybody in this one because there are 2 teams that very much feel like they're still alive in the playoff race. And if you watched the Vikings yesterday, one of the great games of all time, they proved that they are frauds, even though they came back and won. Frauds. So the Lions Could they be the best team in their division? We'll find out today. This one has gone from -1 to +1, depending on the team. Currently, Jets are favored by 1. Could change by kickoff. Total 43.5. Mikey and RJ are 2 OGs. Have a showdown today, gentlemen. One likes the Jets +1.5, Mikey, who's been hitting all of these standalone games. And then you've got RJ, who loves the Lions +1.5. That's where we stand as a brand. So, Sia, let me start with you. Which side would you be on? Keep in mind, your partner in crime is in the chat as we speak.
Yeah, Mike, my partner in fantasy football today, DFS, who has some incredibly hot takes for this slate. You still have a little bit of time to listen, but you can't because you're watching this. And by the way, people who are watching this and people who are in the chat, I mean, we're almost at 600, but the likes, I mean, it could be a little bit better. So I'm just saying, here's what I'll say real quick. If you want me to be extremely obnoxious tonight for Sunday Night Football as a result of getting into Club Cachet, I need you to hit the like button. If you don't want me to be obnoxious to everybody, don't worry about hitting the like button. This game I've actually gone back and forth on. I mean, I would have taken the Jets all day if Mike White was the quarterback, even a somewhat hobbled Mike White. But with Zach Wilson, I just don't know what to lean on here. So I think I will lean on the Jets defense. I liked them last week against the Buffalo Bills, so I should like them this week against the Lions. I think Zach Wilson probably doesn't have to do too much, and he probably isn't as bad as we all think he is. Lions are gritty. Lions are tough. This is basically a playoff game, so it's a stay away from me. If I absolutely had to put money on it, I would take the Jets.
Okay. By the way, Mikey just gave one of his hot takes in the chat. He says he loves Tom Brady this week.
Yes.
They're facing the Bengals in Tampa later today. Interesting take from one of our hottest right now, Mikey. Now, let me come to you, Alex, because in this game, we have been cashing Jared Goff over 1.5 touchdowns. It seems like every single week, the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's really starting to play really good football. But this is a really good defense. Did the lab lean into anything in this game? Because so far, we've stayed clear.
Yeah, I've actually put out 2 props in this game, one on both sides, on the Lions and on the Jets. If you read my article, I am fading Jared Goff's passing yards today, under 237. We've heard the narrative all along regarding Goff. He doesn't play well in cold weather, outdoors, in December. This Jets defense is for real. They are going to be missing their big guy up front, Quinnen Williams, one of the best interior linemen in the NFL, but it doesn't matter. The secondary is absolutely phenomenal. They also have a ton of depth on their defensive line. The Jets 6th in EPA allowed per drop back. I just think this is a real test for Jared Goff, coupled with the fact that he's playing in cold weather on the road. Going to be a tough spot for Goff. I also think we're going to see the Jets we're going to see the Lions offense be very balanced. They're going to run the football quite a bit. That sort of is the Achilles heel of the Jets defense if you had to look at a path of least resistance. So I do expect a very balanced game plan from Detroit. Love fading Goff. On the other side, going back to the well, coach, with the electric rookie, Garrett Wilson. Does not matter who is playing quarterback with this kid. He is absolutely phenomenal. His receiving yards are 51.5. He's eclipsed this in 5 of his last 6 games. Over that 6-game sample, coach, he's averaging 93 receiving yards per game. 2 of those games were with Zach Wilson at quarterback, where Garrett Wilson had over 92 yards. So now he's facing a Detroit defense 30th in EPA allowed per drop back. Great matchup on paper. Garrett Wilson gets open at will. That number is way too low. Gave it out on the site. I would encourage you all to take it.
55.5 is where I'm seeing it hovering around right now. But this has been a guy that has every week gotten a little bit better. For those of you brand new to the brand, other places might tell you if you play a bet 2 or 3 times, you got to stay clear of it. Can't happen 4 times. We don't believe in that philosophy. If our numbers say this is going to hit, then we're going to play it just like Alex just said. All right, that is game number 3 at 1 o'clock, as we're about 20 minutes past the hour, about 39 minutes from the start of the 6 1 o'clock games. Let's move on to the next game, gentlemen. And this is a big one for a lot of reasons. Looking forward to next year, but also don't sleep on this Carolina Panthers team. They went to Seattle last week, and they keep telling us, hey, we haven't kicked on the division yet. We haven't kicked on the playoffs yet. And mathematically, they are very much still alive. So they're laying 3. Steelers coming to town, total 37.5. As a brand coming into the day, we didn't have any. But Sia, let me start with you. The money line is -140, -145. That's where my eyes went to today because I think Carolina wins this game. I just don't know by how much.
Yeah, my eyes go the other direction, actually. This is not a play I've made, not a play I've bet, but I actually like the Steelers +3. If this was 2.5, it'd probably be a different conversation. And I know there's issues with the Steelers at the quarterback position, but obviously you can say the same about Carolina. As much as, excitement as we might have about Sam Darnold relative to Baker Mayfield, it's still not great, and the receiving core really hasn't been great. We don't know if DJ Moore is hobbled. Obviously, the path for the Panthers is to run the ball with Deontay Foreman, with Chuba Hubbard, and with Blackshear, who's actually flashed really well too. And I think they will be able to run the ball in the Steelers. But the one thing about the Panthers, they're a very gritty team, and they're facing another gritty team in the Steelers. And I just think the Steelers might have too much. They might be too creative on defense to maybe stymie Sam Darnold when they do get into some second or third and long. So 3 points, a little bit too much, especially with the 37.5 point total. I'm inclined to bet the Steelers here +3.
As is your partner, M Squared. He said in the chat, he's also leaning towards the Steelers, and he almost made them an official play. That's how much he likes Pittsburgh today. Alex, let me come to you on a prop. We've been cashing with Deontay Foreman a lot lately, and when the Panthers play well, he runs well. 61.5 -130 or so is his number. Do you like him today against the Steelers defense?
Well, interesting. That line actually opened at 70.5, so you're getting a pretty good discount there. I did see quite a bit of Chuba Hubbard last week, but I do think this is a decent spot for Foreman. We see him be heavily involved when the games are competitive or a neutral game environment, so don't mind that. Probably a volume-based play. I would say at the 61.5 number, it's definitely a go for me.
All right. And Michael, I see you in the chat asking about Najee Harris. I can answer for Alex. He doesn't like receiving props with running backs. We just don't really play those when it comes to Alex. Now, let me come back to you, Sia, because Najee Harris has been a guy that's been kind of in and out, had some little, nicks and injuries there. His number is 52.5 today. Every time we seem to bet against him, fade him, he has a big game. Then we don't. He does nothing. What do you think the Steelers, how are they going to move the football today?
Yeah, it's going to be through the ground, I would think. I mean, maybe through some running quarterback stuff as well. And obviously through Jaylen Warren as well. So my lean there would be to the over, but it's just not a comfortable play for me. So it's a nothing on Najee Harris. Certainly not, speaking of Mike being in the chat, certainly not anything in DFS either. This is just one of those games where it's really hard to look at overs. If anything, we should be leaning on a lot of unders here.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. This is one of the games also you just kind of stay away. We like to joke a lot here on the show that I'm not going to watch one single second of this one. This might be one of those games. All right, game number 5 at 1 o'clock today, guys. And this is getting a lot of interest for a lot of different reasons. Cowboys very much alive for a high playoff run. They're still 2 games back of the Eagles in the standings. They're laying 4. Interesting on the road today because the Jags looked maybe the best they've looked all season last week against the Titans on the road, scoring 36. Total 47.5. That's where I'm leaning personally. We have picks from both of you in this game. So, Proppy, I want to start with you because you like a player on both sides of the fence. Talk to me.
Yeah, I do indeed, Coach. First up, we're fading Evan Ingram. Gave this out on the site. Under 44.5 receiving yards. I'll make this quick because this number is not available anymore. It's been bet down to the 37 to 38 range. Unfortunately, I would stay away there. The reason I loved this spot was because Ingram went bonkers last week against the Titans, had 162 yards, his best game of his career. Prior to that game, though, Coach, only averaging 32 receiving yards per game. Now he's facing a Cowboys defense that's arguably the best pass defense in the NFL. They're also elite versus opposing tight ends. Number 1 in DVOA, number 7 in DVOA to the tight end position. They've given up the 5th fewest yards as well. So love fading Ingram. However, I would stay off the 37 or 38 number. Next up, CeeDee Lamb. You can still find this in a playable range. Gave him out over 65.5 receiving yards. He's eclipsed this in 9 of 13 games. He's averaging 73 receiving yards per game. Coming off a dud against the Texans last week, I can excuse him for that matchup. This is a great matchup against a Jags defense that really struggles. If you look at CD across the board, his metrics are absolutely phenomenal. He is playing great football. This is also a game we could see an uptick in passing volume from Dak Prescott, whether it's because Jacksonville pushes the Cowboys or just because Dallas chooses to attack Jaguars pass defense, because that is the weakest aspect of their defense. So love CeeDee Lamb over 65.5 receiving yards. I played this one up to about 70, 71.5. I also love his alt totals today. So sprinkled a little bit on him over 80, 90, and 100 as well.
And I think this is going to be a shootout. I really, really do. I think Alex and Sia, I could see this game in the 30-27, something like that. That's why I'm steering clear of the side, but I love the total. And I believe if the total is going to come into the over, Sia, then your play must come in. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. This is one of my favorite games to play in DFS as well. And while I do concede, you can beat the Jaguars in several different ways, including through the run with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. I think Dak Prescott, we're going to see a little bit more efficiency relative to the last 2 weeks. I think we're going to see him surpass 254.5 passing yards. It's minus 114, was on Friday. It's still at 254.5, so you can actually still get this number. He's exceeded this number in 4 of his last 5 games, and some of those have been with like 39 pass attempts last week, which was a complete outlier. But he's also done that with only 25 and 30 pass attempts over the last 5 games. So this is one of those situations where even if the passing volume doesn't exceed, let's say, 28 or 29 pass attempts, I still think he could potentially get this, particularly knowing that I think he's going to pepper CeeDee Lamb. I think Alex's prop comes in. I think my prop comes in. And keep in mind, the Jaguars are good enough on offense to keep Dallas kind of going full throttle for 4 quarters. So I think that is going to influence how this prop is hit, because he will be passing in the 3rd and 4th quarter as well.
There's no doubt it's going to be a very, very competitive game. By the way, Argentina has scored a goal in the 108th minute. They are taking a look at it. Potential offsides. Oh, and it was Messi. It was Messi that scored his 2nd goal of the game, and it is now 3-2 with about 10 minutes to go in the game. But they are looking at it again, but it looks like, it has been conceded. It is indeed 3-2. Messi has 2 goals today. Mbappe has 2 goals today. You can't get any better than this.
Incredible.
Unless, Alex, Trevor Lawrence has a huge day for the Jacksonville Jaguars. His number's 247.5, but it's juiced to the under. Do you think Trevor Lawrence has a big day today?
I mean, it's going to be tough sledding against this Dallas pass defense. As I mentioned, first in DVOA, this is arguably the best secondary in the league, maybe the best defense in the league. When you talk about Dallas's pass rush as well, their ability to pressure the quarterback is as good as any team in football. So I don't think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a ton of success. Wouldn't surprise me if he has a decent game. That being said, that's why we're seeing his total at 247 when he's had some huge games recently, but do expect him to come back down to earth a little bit against this just absolutely stellar Dallas defense.
All right. That's going to be a fun game to watch. Exactly 30 minutes from now, we are crossing the bottom of the hour here on the Early Edge. For those of you just joining us, just dropping in, this is your daily sports betting brand of record. That's Prop Stars. I am the coach. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Sunday afternoon when we know that you could be doing anything, but you're here with us, so thank you very much for that. One more game at 1 o'clock, and last week we laughed. We said, Texas is going to be a sacrificial lamb against the Dallas Cowboys. And what happened? They damn near beat them. So if the Chiefs are sleeping on this Texas team, they better think again. But they're late. This is an unheard of number on the road. See ya. An unheard of number on 14.5 as a road team. If you're playing this number, and I'm a Chiefs fan, good luck. Total 48.5. How would you attack this game, Sia?
It's a good question. I mean, I would say I'd attack it with props, and I wanted to put a Chris Moore play out there, but the line just kept inflating. So by the time I got here, it just wasn't going to be reasonable. I don't think I would attack this game. If anything, I would probably take the Texans plus 14.5 with a backdoor cover scenario, knowing that Davis Mills and Driscoll actually played pretty well. They were very creative. They were very motivated last week, and they're playing at home. We know you can expose the Chiefs on the back end. Their secondary isn't great, and we saw the receivers flash last week. So I do like the Texans plus 14.5. Am I courageous enough to actually play it? The answer to that is no, but I do think this is an interesting DFS spot, particularly for Chris Moore. Shout out to Fantasy Football Today, DFS, the show I do with Mike. We were on Chris Moore last week at 3,400 in DraftKings, and now the industry has finally caught up, and he is literally the most popular player on DraftKings this week. Him and Derrick Henry are kind of tied for that top spot. So we were on Chris Moore when it wasn't popular to be on Chris Moore. So tune into that show because we're usually on some contrarian plays, and Mike is on a very contrarian stack this week as well.
Yeah, hashtag it pays to watch live. We don't just say it as hype. It matters to watch live. It really, really does for fantasy and for props. So, Alex, let me come to you because I'm looking at a bunch of props. And whenever we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, people love betting props because they love these names, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, but also Pacheco. He's become a guy that out of the backfield, we don't even hear about that. Who used to run for the – see, we don't even know who it was because this guy's become so good. Now, do you like his number today against this Texans defense?
I do like it. And I do want to point out really quickly that I think Sia might have just set the record for saying Chris Moore in the matter of 2 minutes. I think he might have said him over 100 times there. So shout out Sia. That could be an all-time record for most times Chris Moore has been uttered in a 2-minute take. But yeah, Pacheco is playing phenomenal football right now. When the Chiefs commit to him, we have seen some big games. This obviously doesn't get much better of a matchup against the Texans front. So I like Pacheco quite a bit. His rushing yards is 68.5, a bit high. The only thing that worries me, Coach, is if the Chiefs are up big, they will turn to Ronald Jones in the backfield. So if a situation arises where the Chiefs are up 21, 24 points at halftime, we may not see a lot of Isaiah Pacheco in the second half. However, he's obviously explosive enough. He can get there in one half. I do lean over. I actually did bet his long shot bet, him to lead Sunday in rushing yards at plus 2,500. I do think that is worth a look, Coach.
You always seem to find those little nuggets at plus 24, plus 2,500 that we continue to hit every 2 or 3 weeks. Now, quick fantasy question here for you. Moore or Mike Evans do you start? And it says it's a 0.5 PPR.
That's really tough because Mike Evans is clearly the elite talent there, but I don't just always go that route. So I'm actually going to say Chris Moore. Mike Evans could catch a long one for a touchdown easily against this Bengals team because we know Tom Brady's going to pass a ton. So you can go with Mike Evans, but I think I'm going to lean Chris Moore.
All right, Alex, go.
I'd just be remiss if I didn't mention this guy's name. Was waiting patiently all week for Rex Burkhead props. It's going to be Rex Burkhead season in Houston. I was hoping we would get some props on this guy. No Dameon Pierce in the backfield for the Texans, so it's going to be the Rex Burkhead show. A little bit of Dare. I don't want to butcher his last name mixed in as well. So unfortunately, no Rex Burkhead props. If they do pop up, definitely give those a look, especially his combination line. He's very versatile, can catch passes out of the backfield as well as run.
All right, so I have one number that I can throw at you. 28.5 rushing.
Prefer to attack it from the combo aspect. I don't mind that, though. I do think that's a pretty soft number. The Chiefs are pretty soft up front. Yeah, I think that's a good look, Coach.
All right, I'm going to play it right now live on the air. You guys don't think we play our own stuff? Do we play our own stuff, gentlemen?
We play our own stuff, absolutely.
You're damn right we do.
Is that a Noah Stanley question from the chat right there, Coach?
It is. It is. See ya. Answer the bosses. What do you like there?
Well, if it was full PPR, I would go with Komet, but I think I would take the upside of Okonkwo here. So Noah, that's what I would probably go with. I do want to say, since I made the obnoxious comment in terms of how I'm going to act tonight on our primetime show, Washington and the New York Giants at 7:30 tonight, we've gotten 100 likes since then. So I think that's validation for me to be extremely obnoxious coming into the show tonight as a result of my entrance back into Club Cachet.
Did I mention I've been running a fever all morning, Coach? I don't think I'll be able to appear on tonight's show.
Did I also mention, in addition to your fever, that I control the schedule too? So yeah. We or may not see that smile tonight at 7:30 p.m. We have a whole host of people I could choose from. I mean, I've got a list a mile long, as good if not better than Sia Najad. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight at 7:30.
No way.
Eastern.
No chance.
It's just not a chance. All right. So those are the 1 o'clock games. But we've got 4 o'clock games. Finally, the NFL is not saying 10-2, 9-3. We get 4 at 4 o'clock. So, gentlemen, the first game is a game that we're not going to be watching at all. The battle of 2 of the 5 backup quarterbacks getting starts today. The Fighting Colt McCoys. I do feel legitimately bad for Kyler Murray. I don't want to see anybody go down. That sucked last week on the third play of the game. Broncos are favored by 1.5. They will not have Russell Wilson either. The Fighting Brett Rippins will take the field in Mile High. Total 36.5. M Squared, who's been doing an amazing job answering your questions in the chat. He's on the over. This might be the lowest over I've seen in NFL in a long time. 36.5. Ugh. Then RJ on the morning show. Greg Dulcich over 39.5 receiving yards. Somebody's got to catch the ball. And then RJ also has the Cardinals in a teaser at plus 7.5 with the Eagles at minus 2.5. So see it. Let's start with the side on this thing with two backup quarterbacks. You don't really know, but I would lean into Colt McCoy more than Brett Rippon. What about you?
100%. And I also like the over here of 37. I mean, you got to ask yourself the question.
Whoa, real quick. You are not going to believe what just happened. I'm sorry.
France tied it.
Mbappe, hat trick. We're tied at 3 in the World Cup Finals with 3 minutes to go in the game. Mbappe scores again. Wow. I apologize. See that I had to do it. I had to pull an AB. I ruined your flow. And I'm sorry.
You know what? Every time you mention Mbappe, I think of Hanson's Mbop, and that song goes off in my head every time. Am I the only one in the world?
No, I do as well.
Oh, thank goodness.
You're not. All right, please continue. My apologies.
Well, what I was going to say is you have to ask yourself the question, does Colt McCoy run the offense as good or better than Kyler Murray in terms of hitting his receiver and just advancing the receivers and advancing the ball down the field? And I think you got to ask the same question for Russell Wilson, who's been terrible this year. And Brett Rippon's been in the league a couple of years. I don't know that he doesn't run the offense at this point as well as Russell Wilson. There's something going on with Russell Wilson. I don't know what it is, but this total is indicative of two backup quarterbacks that people don't respect. And I actually think you should respect both of them, especially Colt McCoy. I actually like the Cardinals in this game. It's not something I bet, but I'm going to bet it before this game goes off at 4:05. I'll take the Cardinals plus 1.5, and I'll also join Mike on the over of 37.
Okay, that'll be a nice one too. And see, as I come to you, this kind of feels like what we dealt with the Dolphins and the Bills yesterday, where a lot of the props didn't come out till late, but this game feels like you just can't play anybody because we just don't know. And the one thing we say here at the brand all the time, we don't want to bet on hope. What do you think will happen in this game?
Yeah,
Coach,
I mean,
sorry.
Oh, to Alex?
Alex. Sorry, Alex.
So there are some props I do like in this game. I'm so elated to hear that RJ White is also on Greg Dulcich. I gave that play out in my article. Love this spot for him. He's sort of serving as the 1A or 1B as the top option in the passing game. No Cortland Sutton. And we've actually seen Brett Rippon lock on to Greg Dulcich when he's played. So we're seeing a little bit of a breakout campaign for Dulcich. I think 40 yards is more than attainable. Coach, this is an incredible matchup. The Cardinals have given up more yards to opposing tight ends than any team in the NFL. One of the themes, I'm sure if you followed me this season, is we attack tight ends against the Cardinals. So love Dulcich in this spot. He also has, I believe, the second deepest ADOT, average depth of target, of any tight end in the NFL this season. So what that means is it doesn't require a lot of targets for him to make a big impact when you have such a deep ADOT. So absolutely love Dulcich in this spot. Also love his alt totals. Again, very good chance he has a spike week here. So we're also going to hit over 50, over 60, over 70, sprinkle over 80 as well. So love me some Greg Dulcich in this matchup.
Real quick, I don't know if you saw what we went up there. Let me ask. They're asking Sterling Hopkins over 50 yards, Judy over 50 yards. Either one can take it. Just raise your hand.
DeAndre Hopkins and Jerry Judy. Yeah, I think they both probably get there. I like the Judy one better than Hopkins. If it's a boost and it's a good price, feel free.
Okay. All right, we got 3 more games to get to. We have less than 15 minutes to do it, so we got to keep on moving. This next game just screams, as I like to say, yuck. But it's the fighting Bill Belichick's, the fighting Josh McDaniels. And at some point, people are going to realize that Josh McDaniels just isn't a very good head coach. He's a good coordinator, not a good head coach. And the Raiders have blown a ton of big leads this year. Patriots are very much alive in the playoff discussion, however. So on the road, they're getting 1. Total 45. We have no official plays as a brand. But Alex, let me start with you on this discussion, because lately we've seen Derek Carr be okay. We've been talking about Josh Jacobs, and he has a little bit of an injury here and there. When you look at this game, and both offenses have not been great, what do you see?
Just a lot of an inconsistent play. Obviously, we weren't sure if Josh Jacobs was going to suit up. He did practice on a limited fashion. Does turn out he is expected to play. Devontae Adams, obviously, a lot of targets being concentrated to him. I believe that Darren Waller is returning to the lineup today. He was activated off injured reserve. So that's a big boost for this Raiders offense, in addition to Hunter Renfrow. So Carr is going to have his full complement of weapons. We've seen such a concentrated target distribution. They either run the football with Josh Jacobs or throw to Devontae Adams. Finally, we could see a more balanced attack from the Raiders, getting all these weapons back.
All right, let me come to you, see, because you talk about Josh Jacobs, and you just heard we don't know how serious the injury is, but his numbers are out, so maybe a chance to fade him. But when we do that, he then goes for 300 yards.
Yeah.
So when you look at his combo number, 102.5, his rushing number is 81.5. He's pretty heavy, though, to minus 140. Your thoughts on Jacobs today?
My thought is to take the unders across the board. Again, anytime I'm dealing with a guy that's injured, not in so many different ways, right? He's had a calf strain for 3 weeks, which he, apparently is fine, but he also looks like he's broken his finger, which again, they're going to run him out there. My plea to Josh Jacobs all week has been, just milk that broken finger into a contract next year, or hopefully a long-term contract, because I hate the fact that he's being used so excessively. And if he gets injured, then, your career is limited in such a huge way at the running back position. But that's neither here nor there. I'm on the unders. I like the Patriots in this game, and I think the Patriots defense is formidable. In fact, Josh Jacobs was my fade on Fantasy Football Today DFS.
All right, very good. They showed last week they are very, very, very good right now. And if the Patriots are going to make it to the playoffs, it's going to be because of that defense. Real quick, anytime touchdown question, Alex. Let me come to you. Eckler, Jacobs, Derrick Henry, over 3.5 total touchdowns, 4-1. Alex, do you like that?
A lot has to happen. A lot has to go right. Don't love that.
And as we've learned, if there's one thing that I have learned, and I have the benefit of working with these two every single day, is that there's a lot more ways for things to go wrong than things to go right. That's why unders are always more profitable than overs, even though everybody knows in the early edge universe, Coach hates unders. 2 games left, gentlemen. 2 games left. This one is big for the playoffs, and I mean big. Titans, in all likelihood, should win the division. Don't tell Jacksonville. But Chargers are favored by 3. Chargers are playing good football. They looked really good against the Dolphins last week, beating them soundly. Total 46.5. Maestro, he's on the Chargers when it was 2.5. He also loves Mike Williams to have a big day, over 64.5 receiving yards. AB is on Gerald Everett, over 32.5 receiving yards, and also Derrick Henry, over 13.5 receiving yards. So, Sia, let me start with you. Let's start with the Chargers side. Do you like the Mike Williams pick? And because of Williams and Keenan Allen being back together, this seems like the Chargers team we thought we were going to get the entire season.
Yeah, certainly offensively, it's definitely going to be. And I think we're going to see a lot of passing yards for Justin Herbert. I had actually considered his passing yards, but also his longest passing completion. And I think it was like 38.5, 39.5. I ended up backing off of that. But yeah, this is a great team. And the Titans are so banged up in the secondary. This is a very popular stack in DFS because he has his full complement of weapons. I think the question becomes, who does he go to? It will be Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, mostly, with Josh Palmer, guys like Gerald Everett, DeAndre Carter taking a back seat. The question is, does that mean Austin Eckler takes a back seat from a reception standpoint? I think the answer to that is yes.
So let me come to you, Sia, because I was just going through the different props. And every time I come to a Chargers game, I can't help but just take my eyes right to Austin Eckler, because I always know if he's going to have a big game, we can usually assume that other guys will around him. Is today a day for I think he's your favorite player in the league, to be honest. Alex?
Oh, you said Sia. I'm sorry, Coach.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alex.
It's okay. Yeah, this is a tough spot for Eckler, in my opinion. As Sia mentioned, Herbert has a full complement of weapons back. Healthy Keenan Allen, healthy Mike Williams, Joshua Palmer's had a breakout. Gerald Everett, the tight end, DeAndre Carter. There are just so many weapons on this Chargers offense. Also, the Titans defense is very stout up front. They really limit rushing yards. So if Eckler's going to have a big day, it's going to be through the air. But as Sia pointed out, and I believe this as well, there are just so many options. So I just don't know if the usage is going to be there for Eckler. He's really gotten just massive target shares while Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were both banged up. With them healthy, I just don't know how much work there's going to be for him in the passing game. So I do like Eckler. I just don't think this is the best matchup for him because of how good Tennessee is up front and because of how healthy the Chargers are, Coach.
Yeah, last week I faded him, and he had like 40 yards in the first 8 minutes.
Coach, if you recall, I gave that out as an official play, and I said not to play it up under 45 yards. How many yards did he finish with, Coach? 45.
Touche. All right, gentlemen, are we good on that game? Because we're down to our final game, and we've got about 8 minutes or less. And this is a big one. Mikey's already said he loves Tom Brady today. Don't shake your head at him. The man's been on an island, a one-man island, and all he's doing is cashing ticket after ticket after ticket, saying, where is everybody? Well, I'm here, and I'm listening. But this is a tough listen because the Bucs are getting 3.5 at home. Unheard of. The Bengals now with a win today would take over sole possession of the division lead for the first time all year. That's how much is on the line. The Bucs are a first-place team despite the fact they're getting rolled every week, it seems like right now. The Maestro, Bills, Eagles, Bengals in a parlay money line. Mikey, Bucs plus 3.5, as he just told you. But Sia, let's start with you with the side. Do you agree with Mikey that the Bucs could have something for this Bengals team today?
I do agree with Mikey that we're going to see a different Buccaneers team. But the problem is it looks like Boyd and T. Higgins playing. This becomes a little bit more problematic for the Buccaneers versus what I thought was going to be the case, which is one of those two, if not both of them, particularly T. Higgins, was going to be out. So I think it's going to be hard on the Bucs. Like, this is one I'm just generally staying away from, both in DFS and in the sides in the prop market. But if I had to play here, I would go on the Bucs side and I'd take the plus 3.5.
It's funny because this feels like a game that I'm going to wait to see how my 1 o'clock bets do. And if I do well, then I'm going to play what I think I should play, which is fading Mike, which has proven to be very, very costly for all of us recently. But Alex, we talked about Jamar Chase on the Friday prop show, the three of us. And if he plays, Mbappe just scored the first penalty kick for France. They're up 1-0, by the way. If he plays, as Sia just said, it opens things up for everybody else. Is there any prop on the Bengals side that you like today?
Yeah, so it's a bit frustrating last week. T. Higgins was active, Coach, expected to play. Didn't have an injury designation coming into the game, was removed from the injury report a day before the game, ended up playing a couple snaps, and then his day was over. T. Higgins is suiting up today. Just very difficult to project props when Zach Taylor has this habit of listing guys on the injury report, taking them off, and then all of a sudden they will play a couple snaps and their day will be done. However, we do know Jamar Chase is fully healthy. This guy's playing unbelievable football. I talked about him at length on Friday. He is being double teamed more than any player in the NFL. That includes Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. That's how good Jamar Chase is. So I do like his props quite a bit. I think this could be potentially a spike and ceiling game for him. It's obviously reflected in his yardage total of 88.5. Outside of that, not a lot of props I love on Cincinnati side just because of all the questions.
So my book has 85.5. So that's 3 yards better than what you just said. So I'm going to keep this in my back pocket for 425 this afternoon. By the way, Lionel Messi makes the first penalty for Argentina. The stars are showing up. Will they show up in the NFL today? So I believe we've gotten to all of the props, all the sides. Do you guys have anything else on the Bucs and Bengals before we wrap up and enjoy the afternoon? Are we good on that game? Yes?
We are good, Coach.
All right. So, at the end of the show, we like to do a quick 2-minute recap, go through our best bets, and then get the hell out of Dodge. So, Sia, start us off. What do you like today, sir?
Yeah, well, I'll start out with Dak Prescott because I do like him in this game, and I like this from a DFS angle as well. Just the Jacksonville Jaguars pushing the Dallas Cowboys. So Dak Prescott over 254.5 passing yards. I like Cole Kmet over 3.5 receptions. I will point out that his yardage total has declined. It's down to 33.5, 34.5 in some places. I like it there. And then I like Chris Olave to have a nice little kind of breakout game because he's been doing this even against bad defenses. Give me 59.5 receiving yards. I'll take the over there.
Love all three of those. By the way, Argentina up 2-1 after 2 penalty kicks at the World Cup. Prop stars, talk to me.
Yeah, give me CeeDee Lamb over 65.5 receiving yards, potential spike week against the Jaguars pass defense that really struggles. Then we've got A.J. Brown over 68.5 receiving yards. Same thing applies. I love the spot for him to potentially have a blow-up game. Evan Ingram under 44.5 receiving yards. Love that spot. However, I would stay away from the current number, which is around 38.5. Also talked about Garrett Wilson, who I'm on today, fading Jared Goff as well. Lots of props. Absolutely love this slate, Coach.
I'll do. All right. And we're going to throw up there, if we can leave that up there, AB, as we wrap the show up so people can see all the rest of the best bets for the Maestro, RJ, Mikey, and AB. We like to end every single one of our shows asking my experts what's the number one most important thing they're looking for today. See ya. Start us off, sir.
Well, I said this last week a little bit too, but it truly is playoff time this year. And so I think all of these games, even the games you don't want to watch, right? Like the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots, these are critical games for a lot of these teams, particularly the Patriots in that particular example. But this is going to be really intense football. I think everybody should sit back and enjoy it.
I agree. By the way, France, they're starting to show the nerves. They completely missed the entire goal on their third one, not even close. So 1 out of 3, Argentina, a chance to be 3 out of 3 and put a lock on this World Cup. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely amazing slate of football. Just looking across the board, so many great matchups. One matchup I've definitely got my eye on is the Titans game against the Chargers. I have a good feeling that the winner of that game will appear in the playoffs, while the loser will likely be left out in the cold.
Yeah, just like PropStar said, just like Sia said, there are 4 games for a lot of these teams left in the regular season. Now that there are 17 games and no longer 16, it starts to see who's going to end on a 4-game heater heading into the playoffs, just like we saw with the Bengals a year ago. They're doing the same things again this year. Keep your eye on all of that today. Educate yourself so you can take it into the final weeks of the season with us. All right. We love doing this so very much. Congratulations, Argentina. They're up 3-1 with 2 to go. In all likelihood, they will win. It's been an incredible month. Say thank you to our guys, Buckets, the Guru, Brand Sutton, Speculator. They've taken us through all of it. But now it's time for us to focus on American football. And there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window. My entire crew, love them all. Prop stars, C and Ajad, AB on the 1s and the 2s, M squared in the chat. The crew always showing up, whether they're asked or whether they're not. That's what we do right here at the Early Edge. Good luck.